Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session's Claims-Based Authentication in SharePoint 2010. My name is Kin Khan, and this is Subir Amit. Both of us are from University of Auckland. Today's session is all around claims-based security in the SharePoint space. SharePoint 2010 incorporates a more powerful and flexible authentication model that works with the common corporate identity system like AD, LDAP, and application-specific databases. But now, SharePoint also works with the new user-centric claim-based identity systems. So today we will look at Microsoft Active Directory Federation Services, ADFS 2.0, and how it works together with SharePoint 2010, and how they enable the scenario of secure collaboration external to the organizations. So before we start, can I have a show of hands how many of you work with claims-based security before? 5% maybe? Right, so to start with, we'll first go through the key concepts or the key terminologies of the in the claims-based world. And then we will quickly talk about the benefits of claims to the business and also to the IT people. And then we will quickly show you what University of Auckland has done in terms of these technologies. Then we will show you what's inside ADFS, how to set up the custom identity provider in there, and then we'll show you how to establish the federation trust between SharePoint and ADFS. And then we will show you how to set up the custom claims provider in SharePoint so SharePoint can make use of the claims and identities from ADFS. So this is rather a big topic, and we're trying to consolidate lots of different areas into an hour-long sessions. So myself and Subir will be available straight after outside the conference room or back to Sky City in the recharge bar to answer any questions that you may have. So let's do a quick primer on the terminology. The first one is identity. Identity is a set of attributes describe a principle. And the principle itself could be a user, could be a computer, or could be a printer. But obviously, the user will be the one that we're most interested in. So the attribute could be the name, gender, age, email address, and so on. One important thing is the attributes also contains the group membership for this individual. So we have a real example here, Mike Glassford. And his attribute contains his names, could be his name, date of birth, eye color, and also his citizenship status. The next one is claim. It is an attribute about an identity issued by an authority. Identity provider is the trusted authority that creates and issues claims. And relying party is the application that makes authorization decision based on claims. So back to Mike's example, just imagine what's on his personal details page on his passport. So he got his name, date of birth, eye color, and so on. So the identity provider here will be New Zealand government because they're the one that issued the passport. And the relying party would be any countries that Mike could travel to. So very simple concept. The next one is token. A token consists of a set of claims about the principle and signed by an authority. So the token is more or less the same as Mike's passport. So we got all the claims in the token, name, date of birth, and so on, and the token is signed by New Zealand government. Before we jump onto the next slide, let's say Mike wants to travel to Australia. So his passport represents a token of his identity issued by and certified by New Zealand government. And the relying party would be the Australian custom. They're the one that making the decision whether allowing him into the country or not. So what makes this system of identity work so effectively is the trust relationship. So Australian custom would trust anyone who holds the New Zealand passport issued by the New Zealand government. So without the trust, Mike can jump back onto the same plane and go back to New Zealand. So why we say claims, not attributes? Well, you may receive the claims or attributes from different systems or different authorities. So this is entirely possible that Mike has a record with New Zealand government and also an account on Facebook. So he said he is 35 years old to New Zealand government, which is his true age. And he could register himself saying he's 18 years old, born in 1992. So in order to make a decision, which one is right, the relying party has to make a decision based on the context, which claims it is going to trust. So this is really a scenario-driven determination. Depends on what you're doing, what the application is doing. You may choose to trust the claims from Facebook rather than the one from New Zealand government if you are doing some sort of social collaborations. But if you are doing some sort of legal transactions or some official process, of course you would trust the one from New Zealand government. So what are the benefits of claims? So let's say your organization has multiple applications in your organizations, and each one of them have their own single sign-ons and also their identity stores of their own. So you want to implement some sort of single sign-on solutions so to simplify the user login experience. So you're taking away the problems from the end users, but what you're not taking away is the burden to the IT administrators because they have to manage the identity data within those identity stores. So if you are using claims, the application can simply just get the claims, get the identity data from the trusted identity provider and use it that way rather than keeping the data in the identity stores of their own. So here's another situation. So your company wants to share some information or do some collaboration with external partners. Not saying this is the way for every single company, but lots of time this type of collaboration are ad hoc. So because of this nature, your external partner may not have access to your collaboration system. So the user would find the most convenient way to share information or do collaboration. So what they do, they just attach the document, attach to the email, and send it across. So this is really a big security hole because sensitive information can leak that way. Not to mention how many versions of the document that stored on the email systems. So for the companies who acknowledge this type of problems or your company have some sort of formal relationship with the external partners, you may have a process in place getting your help desk to set up a new account for the external partners, manage all the access requests, and also password resets. So this is really a time-consuming and labor-intensive process, but yet it is still insecure. What if that person from the external partners leave their companies? Are you expecting that person or the external partner will tell you about it, so you deactivate your account on your site? So there's still potential unauthorized access there. So in the ideal situations, if you're using claims, then you really want your external partners to manage the identity data at the end. So when the person wants to access your resources on your site, they need to provide the claims for you to verify, and you have to make a decision whether to allow that person to have access or not. So another benefit of claims is that it could make your business application more agile and loosely tied to your infrastructure on premises. And you can move your application more easier to the cloud without losing the single sign-on experience that you already have in your company. So we recognize these benefits, and we integrate ADFS and SharePoint 2010 together in university. And now Sabir will show you talk about more on the SharePoint ADFS integration side and also how we put these technologies together.
Thanks, Ken. Hi, guys. Yes, we've been working towards getting a collaboration space going for the University of Auckland, specifically looking at SharePoint Server as the collaboration platform and ADFS 2.0 as the identity provider, plus for managing some of the trust relationships that need to be managed to have an effective collaboration on SharePoint. So I think this part of the session, because I'll be going through quite a bit of demo, I think the main takeaway from this is we know as SharePoint developers the sort of key benefits that we can get out of it in terms of collaboration within the organization. It has you can have your My site. That's the point of for collaboration. You can create sites like team sites, lists, document libraries, and that could be generated ad hoc for depending on your collaboration needs. But often the problem is for external partners or external people to be able to come in and effectively use those same resources in many cases to sort of collaborate with you. So, are you? Oh, it's on the screen. So, what are the sort of some of the claims investment that's been made within SharePoint Server 2010? It's identity provider neutral. By that I mean any standards-based identity provider that is WS Federation capable. SharePoint is able to use that as an authentication provider and allow identities from those providers to flow through. Obviously, the IT administrator has to build up the trust relationships. Federated and social collaboration, that's something we have worked towards and try to enable users from, say, Facebook or OpenIDs to actually securely come in to our collaboration portal, and I'll show you that in part of the demo, first part of the demo. In the past, 2007, we had the people picker. We were able to pick user identities and group identities from both Active Directory and membership providers. That is limited to, that wasn't limited in that context, but within the SharePoint claims context, it is limited because we have such a expressive means of describing an identity now in terms of a set of attributes that that claims people picker is needed to be extended not only in terms of conceptually, but also in terms of the infrastructure it provides for developers to actually extend it. So I'll show you that hopefully as well towards the end. Secure identity delegation. This is something that is probably in the past was difficult to do without Kerberos, I guess, and I think there's a session straight after this explaining how to do that, so I don't know how relevant that is anymore, but I think not only this identity delegation, not only is it achievable within the SharePoint farm where from the web front ends you're able to delegate some of the identities to the application server, but it's also possible in business connectivity services in a model where you're actually connecting to web services that's sitting outside your premises. Being able to pass on some of those identity information to them is now possible using WS Trust protocol. So that's a plus point for that. But I put claim server search there as a specific service application for 2010 because I think I quite like that in terms of the claims investment that's been made there. If you think about a file share that needed to be crawled in 2007 environment, SharePoint crawler was smart enough to go and pick out not only the content but also the permissions from within somewhere in your network, so you can crawl that. But if you wanted to view or query those file share information, you need to log in using Windows Identity and crawl that. Query that service. But if you think about in a collaboration context, in an organization, you might have an ADFS instance where users are logging in using that. You still want the users that are authenticating using your ADFS still to be able to view the results they would have seen if they were logging in using their Windows Identity. So that is still possible to do because the way you describe Windows Identity in claims mode is very similar to how you would describe the identity coming from an external provider, just like ADFS. So this is a screenshot of a working demo that Mike is actually using, where he's crawling almost 100,000 PDF files, is it? Okay, more. So PDF files, this is something that was pretty easy to do, just point it to a file share, get SharePoint to pick that up, and using a single sign-on environment within the university that we have, the users are still able to use that, but when they come into the file, to this page, the search page, they're still able to see the file share results. So that was a specific instance that I wanted to go through. In terms of ADFS 2.0, it's really a hub for managing trust relationships with other identity providers, also to your application that you're protecting. There's a lot of built-in goodies in there, I guess, that enables you to do that effectively, especially in a collaboration context. If you think about SharePoint as a shared environment, where you might have multiple applications sitting there and they all need to be protected using your central identity provider. You don't want to take out all of those servers or just to manage or push changes through to one or two of them. So there's through using PowerShell, you're able to make changes to certain applications without affecting the others. And I think if you're talking about collaboration, that is a big plus. There's a claims rule processing engine that's being built into the ADFS 2.0 environment. It enables IT administrators and developers to go in and effectively manage identity information, what's being passed to the SharePoint, or what's coming in through other providers. I'll show you a little bit of a walkthrough of how to do that and how it's sort of relevant. The two most important part of the claims rule processing engine is, firstly, it's declarative. Secondly, it's domain specific. So IT administrators, it's easy for them to pick it up because issuing a simple claim is as easy as saying issue, claim type, and the claim value. So it's domain specific. And the declarative part is the bit that allows you to push through changes without affecting the others, right? Because it doesn't need to be compiled as such. So whatever you push through changes, it gets updated across all the servers in the ADFS. And the last two, it's not strictly part of ADFS 2.0. It's some of the stuff that we've added to enable better collaboration, identity mapping, and actors role. And I'll go through that in demo rather than talking about it. Sorry. Okay. So Ken is going to drive that. I'll move over. So Ken will try to log into the university learning management system, which is also a collaboration space, using his Facebook account. And the aspect of this that we're looking out for is the identity mapping. So, oh, sorry, just hold on, Ken. Oh, there it is. Do you want to start at the system? Okay, we try to go to our CISL environment, which is the learning management system, and it was redirected to this page where on the left-hand side is the single sign-on environment, and on the right-hand side, some of the integration work we've done in terms of letting users from those providers coming in through easily. So once Ken logs in, it comes back to ADFS. ADFS does a lot of okay, we'll use the Windows one. He hasn't used this before, so we'll just make it quicker. Yeah. It's always better to use something that you used before. So once he's logged in using his Windows Live ID, what happens in ADFS is it comes through, it understands that it's coming in through Windows Live ID. Ken has gone through a mapping process where he's associated his Windows Live ID with the University of Auckland identifier. So when he's coming through here, we can see at the top right-hand side, if we can, he's coming with his proper university full name, so that's his proper formal name, I guess. This is our learning management collaboration space. If you go into one of the courses, if you can have a look at that a bit better. Oh, this is a course. Okay, we can have a look at the claims that's come through. We've got to put up a page that lists all the claims. And so just give you guys a bit of an idea what the claims actually look like in real life. So just a bit smaller, so they can see the claim type too. So we can see university identifier, which is UPI, is HCAN 008. So that's his identifier that's been passed through. and that could be used within the SharePoint environment to protect resources or grant access to certain things. So it's got the basic claims there. Some of the specific ones to teaching and learning refers to the course role. So we can see there's a lot of demo courses that he's part of, and he's a lecturer in some of them and students in the others. And the way we have set up our collaboration environment for learning is all the permission is based on roles. So, and that allows for us to do a lot of cool things when it comes to acting as or impersonating other roles. And we'll go into that a little bit later, but we'll show the actual permission granting part with claims picker. Yeah, so we can see the roles that's been given specific permissions, so we can see, okay, we'll go and search for it. The University of Auckland is an extension that's been a claims provider that we sort of extended from to enable us to search our university directory or university data stores to be able to pull out information about individuals and about courses. We're looking for Mike there. We can also look for groups, and hopefully, and that shows that found the law 399 and lecturer roles, so we can give permission based on that. But we won't do that here, so everything's done in that regards. If we go up to the top level, one thing I want to show before going in trying out the actor's role or role impersonation is on the left-hand side. If you press on that, okay, sorry. You see the full list of actions that can be performed within the site. We can see the site permissions that is a high-level permission, on a site to be able to do. So when we log in using another role, if we can sign in as a different role, what it's doing is it's trying to go to the actor's role identity provider, and what we've sort of specified in terms of policy is that you have to log in using a university login for you to use that service. So once he's logged into that, we'll see a list of roles that it can. Don't read the content; this doesn't make sense. But you can see there's different roles he can impersonate. So as a student role, if he impersonates that. And hopefully when he comes back, you'll see a reduced set of functionalities for him. Yep. So all those high-level permissions gone away because he just changed the roles that he's acting as within that. So that was done dynamically. It stops them from using dummy login or just to manage like what other people can see within the site. And obviously, if you're using dummy login, that's error-prone because you have to do a one-to-one mapping between who you're actually trying to see what they can do and your dummy account having the same permissions. So I think, is that it? Or? So we'll try and have a go at creating some of these ourselves now from scratch. Not strictly from scratch. I put it into snippets so I can drag and drop, hopefully, and make it quicker. But for the purposes of the session, I've created a scenario that is, I think will make sense to you guys. So I think if you think about it, there is a group of people, just like you guys, wanting to collaborate on a conference session, just like this one, on a very rich collaborative platform, just like SharePoint. So we're going to try doing that. We're going to try creating a collaborative environment quickly on a SharePoint site and allowing you guys to be able to log in. But I think the expectation is there that just for the purposes of collaborating on a 3-day conference, you don't want to have to sign up, put up your username, password, and get in just for those 3 days, right? You want to be able to use what you have already. So what we're going to try doing is hooking up to OpenID provider. So when it comes through, you can use your OpenID providers if you have Yahoo Mail or My OpenID or any of those. Log in using them, come in through to SharePoint, and then we can carry on from there. Okay. So as we're going through that, we'll be exploring a bit of the ADFS 2.0 features. So I think I mentioned that already, but what we're essentially going to do is, on top of ADFS 2.0, we're going to create a specific site which is going to act as a bridge to the OpenID protocol, because OpenID doesn't directly talk to ADFS. It doesn't sort of have the same protocol. So we're going to create a bridge that's going to talk to others. But for the purposes of this demo, only to OpenIDs. But obviously, Facebook is a different protocol, so if you wanted to do that, you can do that for that. Or even if you, within your organization, if you have specific single sign-on environment that you created and you wanted to extend that or federate that out, you can sort of use the same approach, right? So as long as you can authenticate to a site, you can federate route using the Windows Identity Foundation. That has a lot of, the object model there is very helpful in terms of creating that. So we'll try doing that, and then we'll step to the rest of that later on. Okay. So right now, actually, I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, this is a very tech-ed slide. This is the site we're going to try to incorporate. Right now, I had to log in using Windows ID, but NTLM. So we'll get rid of that, and we'll pass it on to ADFS to manage all the authentication bits. But specifically, what we'll try end up doing is we'll leave everything else the same, but only make discussions, the list, updatable or changeable from external users. So, but before. I think I'm going to go through quite a bit of code, so if I lose someone here, I don't mind speaking about it later on after the session, so just free feel to come up. Okay. First thing we should do is on SharePoint, if we jump onto Central Admin, actually go back, we can. Okay. I won't go through the installation process for ADFS 2.0. It's quite straightforward. There's the GUI version that you can go through, but that installs it in a local Windows local database. So it will be specific to that server. And you can still have a farm environment built up with multiple servers and with ADFS. But in that case, it's just going to be a master-slave scenario where they're going to replicate data and whatnot. But the other option is, if you don't mind using there's a command line tool that comes with it that you can use to point it to a database and SQL Server database, and you can use that as the configuration store. The plus point for that case is that it uses SQL Server message broker, so when you update it from one server, it updates all the other servers quite quickly. So that's what we've done here. Do we need to have a look at the database? No. Okay, once you open it up and it's configured, this is the administrative console. If we could just have a look at the different endpoints that's available for that passive authentication, which is the web browser part. This is the specific endpoint, ADFS LS, so this is where the authentication is going to come to. But if you're using WCF web services and you want to protect them, there's a whole list of other endpoints that you can possibly make use of. So this is something we don't often think about, right? When we're thinking about federating or collaborating across multiple, between organizations, we're sort of almost always thinking about the web applications, not the web services, especially in the way of, in a service-oriented architecture, right? You want to have web services that's sitting on your organization that needs to be consumable by outside external organizations, right? For those scenarios, you'll need to use something like that to be able to give them access to it. So that delegation part still happens within ADFS. And the other thing to sort of look out for is the federation metadata endpoint. This gives you information about what what are sort of some of the passive endpoints and whatnot, and the certificate information that is used to specify, to trust, build up the trust relationships. Okay. So these are the certificates. I won't go into it except to say the most important part of this case is the service communication certificate needs to be trusted by the end user. This is the minimum requirement because it's in terms of SSL, you don't want them to get a certificate error. These are some of the claims that are issued, but when you're issuing your claims, it's not limited to this. You can create it on the spot and send it through. But this is just for publishing, so in your metadata, you can publish these out. Claim provider trust. So these are the identity providers that are hooked up to our ADFS. By default, it will always have Active Directory, so you can log in using the local directory instance. And here we have SP Taker 2010. We'll actually create that from scratch as well. Attribute store is the extension point within the ADFS 2.0. So not only can you look up your LDAP or your Active Directory or SQL Server out of the box, so I'll show you that. So there are some options for you to configure that, and it's as easy as if you were doing a SQL Server, putting the connection string you would get when you're building a normal website. So you can do that, but not only that, you can, if you are that way inclined, you can use .NET code, inherit from a specific class that's within the API, and you're able to make use of it in that case. So it's very extensible. Actually, for our purposes, the identity mapping part, that is actually a specific attribute store that does the mapping. Okay. I talked about the claims rules, what they look like. I thought I might as well show you one. So it's all GUI based, but you can load this in all from a text file as well. Basically, if you're going through the GUI, there's different options. You can say pass on or pass through an incoming claim that's coming through. So if you do that, you can choose which one. And before, if you listed it in part of the claims, it will show up here. So it's very simple. You're saying what claims can be passed on to who, and yeah, to whom. Okay. The first thing we need to start up with OpenID is we need to have something that is able to talk the OpenID protocol. And for that, OpenID, .NET OpenAuth, you can use that library, and it has all the built-in features for you to talk to that. So if we go in here, I've created the skeleton of it, most of it, so I don't have to walk through everything. But essentially what we're going to do is put a input, or like OpenID input, that is part of the that namespace, .NET OpenAuth. So it's a specific control that you can use to communicate over OpenAuth protocol. So once a user enters information in there, we'll add some additional information. So I'll just uncomment these. So I'm specifying I want require SSL. This doesn't have to be so. The identity provider in many cases might not comply to that. So it's probably up to you to sort of check all these things in a production environment, make sure these are applied from the identity provider side. Prepare request. So what we're going to do is OpenID has its own extension points as well. So you can add different extension points to specify how you want the communication to happen and what information you want back from them. So policy extension. So it just specifies that I want a private personal identifier and whatnot. Doesn't mean that I'm going to get all of them back, but you are expecting them to sort of comply with some of them. And to add claims request. So the other thing we want is just to make the user's life a little bit easier, we want to be able to get email and full name of the user that's coming in through the OpenID, if it's there. If it's there, otherwise we don't really need it for the purposes of collaborating on this on our site. But if it's there, it makes the whole process simpler, right? So there's these two extension points, claims request and fetch request. Both of them allow you to, they're two different extensions, but they're pretty much doing the same thing. So you're saying, if you're using claims request, please give me email and full name if you have it. Otherwise, if you're using fetch request, give me email or full name. So once that's done, I wonder if I can... save that. Okay, we'll have a look if that shows up. Okay. The other thing that comes with ADFS is the actual website that is handling user interaction. I've pointed to that. That is simply in the pub ADFS ls. So this is basically the site. In there's the web config. So if you open that up, by default, ADFS, for internal use, it will go through certain providers or certain providers for authentication. In here, we can see the integrated. It's actually ordered list, so we can see integrated comes off first. So that's why you saw the pop-up box. But what we really want is to actually, do I have that? Oh, yeah. So I've changed the order around, and I've specified that I don't want to remember the identity provider that I logged in this time because it's going to choose the same one otherwise for 30 days. And I said, don't worry about single sign-on for now because we're still in the testing phase and whatnot, we don't want to sign on straight away. So I've taken all those out. So what that hopefully will do now, when we try to go to the same site, instead of giving the pop-up, it should take to the forms authentication. No. Forms, that. Don't worry, I have backup for all of it. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yep, if you try to go there, we see the forms authentication. So I think I prefer this approach rather than the pop-up. That's always a bit... So if we go back, and we change the form authentication a little bit to make it easier for our users. So I probably shouldn't have shown that, but within the university, our default authentication domain is that. I see people staring at me. So we just made it easier so they don't have to put the EC part of it if they don't need to. So that's all right. We'll go and change our domain tomorrow. Okay, so okay, we are here. But what we need right now is to be able to get some sort of a user interface going that's going to point to our OpenID provider. How long do I have? We need to configure that in ADFS. So right now there's only one. We need to do the OpenID provider. Let's see somewhere. Okay, I'll show you the code before. This is all through PowerShell. I can go ahead, change some of the properties in ADFS, like the organization info. It's saying that it's part of the University of Auckland, some contact information. And right at the end, I feel like I pressed some button. Yeah. Right at the end, what we see is we're grabbing some rules from some text file, which is basically OpenID acceptance rules, and grabbing a certificate from a same folder, and using the ADFS commandlet for creating a new claim provider trust, we're specifying the OpenID as the name. This is the identifier that's going to identify that provider. There's some certificate information to specify how you actually build the trust relationships. And the actual endpoint we have is, if you look at it, is OpenID, the bridge.asdx page. So it's going to be a page in our OpenID website that's going to sort of do the brokering between the two different protocols. So if we can still configure it without having the site up, so we can. Yep. Yay. So if you go back in here, we can see it's been configured, and it has the acceptance rules that I had specified in a file. It all came through here. If you guys want to know, then I can just quickly show the acceptance rules. Am I running late? Time, okay. So that's the rules, just the way it looked on the UI. You can see it looks pretty much the same. So now if we go to the sign-in page again, this time, because there's more than one identity provider, it's got listed in here, so we can see OpenID. And if we choose that, hopefully it will go to the right place. Yep, we can see the OpenID, the usual endpoint that we have. When we come back, I don't know which one's going to work, so we'll just use that. So just by dragging and dropping that control, we are able to do the authentication. To set up that protocol bridging. What's my password for this? This is the interesting part. Ken was talking about earlier about how there's different identities coming from different providers, but this is one instance where from within the same identity provider, you have different persona as such. So you can pass on any information that you like to this site, but change your persona going into some other one. So I have built-in one, so I'm going to send back. And as you can see, they didn't verify my email address. I'm at teched.com. Oh. Get attributes from response. See, the attributes came back, but I didn't do anything with it. So it came back, and by default, after authenticating, it's going to pass it on to the default page. And the default page has some logic in showing the actual information that came through. So we'll try that again. Oops. What did I do? I have to rebuild for it to go into that directory. This time around. Hey. Sweet. So it shows that my identifier that came through and my name and my email address there. So now what we have to do, now that we have the OpenID information, we have to package it in a way that ADFS understands and pass that along. And so for that, still on the bridge page, response switch. So the response could have been authenticated or canceled or failed. We won't bother about the cancel or failed. But when authenticated, sorry guys, I have to rush through this. Oops. What it's basically doing is using the Microsoft.identity model, the objects that are part of that, the claim is one of the objects there. I'm using that to build up a list of claims and creating a sign-in response to the original message that came through, and then basically flushing that, meaning ending the request at that stage. So if I just put those two helper methods in there, think I've taken too much of it out into my snippets. Is that it? I'll just make sure. And in here, this is part of the WS Trust protocol. There's a class in there specifically, it's called Security Token Service, so you have to implement that. And what we're doing in here is making sure the user is authenticated within the website, and once it's authenticated, we're adding a few more attributes and passing it back. And in here, if we wanted to, we can go and call our own database or whatnot and bring out more information about the user. But for the purposes of this demo, hopefully that's enough. Okay. So okay. So now we come back to SharePoint. It's telling me that it doesn't know how to handle it. So we have to go back to SharePoint now and tell it to use claim-based authentication and specifically configure this ADFS as one of the providers. So if we jump onto SharePoint, first thing we do, web applications. This is our web application on HTTPS. Go to authentication providers. Thanks, Mike, for keeping it going. So we had before NTLM. We'll just take that out. Okay, no, we won't take it out. We'll first configure our own. Actually, for time's sake, I think we'll just keep it there, but go over the code a little bit. It's very similar to the ADFS side of things, but this time around the certificates is on this side, so we need to be aware of the certificate that was used to sign the token that's coming in from ADFS. So we gather that and put it into this folder. This is the endpoint that we're going to be talking to that I showed earlier on. This is the ADFS endpoint. And the identity of this web application is this. So these are all the bits that's required on the ADFS side for it to understand, okay, who's this application that's trying to consume these tokens. And once that's done, we're grabbing a bit of the claims that we require or that we accept from the provider. I won't go into that. And then finally, using this a new SharePoint commandlet to actually create a trusted identity token issuer. And it's using the information that we set up earlier on the top. And just making sure at the end that it's actually configuring it properly. So once that's done, if we go and switch back into that, we won't go and try running that. You know that's going to run and work. So we'll switch on to using claims now instead of, switch on to using ADFS rather than Windows. It was still using claims earlier on, but just for Windows. So hopefully if we go into that, we logged in through that, so let's close that. So what I did this time around is, because I don't have Windows authentication anymore, enabled anymore, it redirected to this ADFS. I'm going to choose OpenID, go and log in. Oh, what was that? Woohoo! Sweet. Now you can see. Yay. So now we've come in through our OpenID, logged into SharePoint, and we can do what we wanted to do initially. But at this stage, what we've specified is anyone authenticated can have a look at the stuff, so it has read permissions, but no more than that. So what we want to be able to do is actually give a bit more permission on the discussion board, so they can go and actually reply to messages that's been posted by other people. So we'll try to do that. Okay, I don't think I'll have time to go to that as well, so I'll just go through some code. Oh, do you want to switch on to that? Okay, so we've finished the first demo. Second one. At this stage, we're logged in using, and we have those ID and email coming through, but we have to give them specific permissions. Actually, we've gone through this as well, right? We've configured the collaboration provider, so we're going to carry on. Hold on. This is some of the SharePoint enhancement or claims enhancement in 2.10, but we've already seen some of them already. So there's still you can still use the old classic mode for in the current web applications in the SharePoint 2010. But probably my recommendation will be to switch over to claims as soon as possible. The internals of SharePoint is using claims throughout it. So if you want to sort of go towards what's happening in the sort of current space, then it's probably good to move towards it. And I think there is built-in functions into the PowerShell, I think, so for you to migrate the old Windows authentication information back into claims. And at the end of the day, what is important and from this slide is, doesn't matter if you were using the old classic or the new claims mode, at the end of the day, it comes back to SP user. So if you're using SP user in the past, you're still dealing with SP user to grant permissions. But it's just how you get to that SP user is the new part for claims. So I won't talk about it. And we'll try to do the permissions thing right now. Thanks, King. So what we're going to try to do in this case is we want to verify the user actually has a proper valid email address before we assign permissions. So we're going to put up a hopefully we have another browser. What I'll do is actually turn on the feature. I had that as a backup feature, but I'll just show it. Okay. Please come through. Yep. And this account has permission to go. Oops. Has permission to go and activate the feature that I deployed earlier on. Okay. So what that has done is to put up this button that says go and register. And once you go and want to register, it gives you a form. Or when it goes and what you're basically trying to do is capture some information that you can pick up from your claim provider or the people picker or claim picker. So once they've gone through it, edit some information, it's in the database, we need to pull it out. How do we do that? Essentially, there's two steps. Inherit from the SP claim provider class and implement the method that's defined in there. I'll go through them quickly, but the other aspect of it is how you activate that claim provider. To do that, you just create a feature, but this feature, unlike the other feature with standard feature receiver, this is claim provider feature receiver. And in there, you just specify the claim provider that you want to push through. and it just gets pushed through to the actual object model, then SharePoint can pick that up. I'm skipping over a lot of content, so hopefully it still makes sense to some level. Okay, claim picker. There's three main parts to the claim provider. There is the claim augmentation. That's basically when you log in. If you want to attach some additional claims to the user, you can do that at that stage. If you are searching for the user, there's a search component of it. So when the person, as Ken did earlier on, he was searching for something along the lines of law to get the course roles for the for law subject. In that case, that's a search that was doing against the database. So that comes through here. And the other third thing is the resolve method. And the resolve is the little box that we get. Resolve is this box that we get when we try to resolve an identity. So if you're looking for this individual, it's saying there's so many different types. But yeah, I'm from Google, my ID provider, VeriSign, any of them. So this part of it is resolve. So there's three components, and we can go through and have a look at individually how to configure those three. Okay, the first thing to do is to actually build up the tree structure that's required for the people picker to work. And in that case, it's just going through SB provider hierarchy tree and creating, these are nested objects within each other. So you can go as deep as you want to. And in this case, we're going through and creating two. We're creating one for people and one for group. So sort of similar to what we had for our learning environment. And once that hierarchy has been filled up, we can do other things like fill resolve. What that's basically doing is taking the input from user, it comes in through resolve input. And whatever the content of that is, we're searching our specific database. Take it 2,000 entities. It's just a link to entities connection to a database. And it has the objects that we were looking for. So we're looking for specific. So I was looking for my user named claim. So all I'm doing is looking for that within that database context and building up the picker entity, which are the object that gets displayed on the people picker, claim picker. So that's what it looks like. And all we're doing is specifying the display text and the actual claim that is associated with it. So this is the claim that will be used to grant access to specific information. Okay, 53. And the very last one, I'll just quickly go over it. Very last one was the search. Resolve, searching. Searching is very similar, but instead of, I guess, looking for exact matches, if you can get it, this is looking for any sort of type, close enough matches. So if it's looking for contains the search pattern that we're looking for. Obviously, in your production environment or in your, if you're doing this to a large scale, then you probably have better searching algorithm than contains using a link to entities. But I think this demonstrates how you can possibly pick up the information, create the picker entities, and pass that along to SharePoint, and SharePoint will take that on board. So what does that do? So I've registered, and after registering, what it does is it puts the information into a list, so the administrator can come and grant permissions. So if you go access request, oh, this is from old. Okay, we'll do Mike's again. Thanks, Mike. So we can go in through here, approve, and goes through. And if you look at the actual permission that was given based on that, Mike. So look at the actual discussion list. Okay. I think I'm screwing it up. So there's the link. How much time do we have, Kim? Huh? Over. Okay. I think I can carry on this later on if you guys want to see it, because I think we're pushing the time a little bit. But essentially what happened in there is it went to a list, and once the list was approved, we just have a list listener that's going through, creating the same role assignments as in the past what we had to do for normal user entities for Windows login, and assigning the permissions to that discussion list. So that was all that was done. I think we finish it off. Yep. I think the key takeaway from that was really that together ADFS 2.0 and SharePoint 2.10 makes the cross-organization collaboration easier. I think that part I did all well in terms of getting the OpenID identity to come through. But once in there, how you manage the identity, how you give permission is something that you have to build in anyway. So hopefully you guys can take that away, and that made sense. Some related content to this, I guess. And that's all from us. So, thank you.